going on there, guys? Good afternoon. It is the Earthmaster here on this Wednesday afternoon. It is January 5th, 2022, about 12:04 p.m. California time, and the latest quake on the globe, a 4.8 earthquake out here around the Solomon Islands area. Seen a swarm of movement kicking up out here in the last 24 hours. Also, some uptick into the North American continent in Nevada as well. Let's go ahead and check out some details on the latest USGS map here, showing earthquake activity over the last 24 hours. This is the all magnitude map, at least in the states and the territories. 4.0 internationally throughout the world here. Still seeing some movement in the Solomon Islands area and south of the Vanuatu area. 4.8 just coming in here within the last hour at 127.1 kilometers below surface. Continued deep earthquake activity within this region of the world. Also seen some activity here in the Indonesia area. That was from late last night. Pretty deep. 6.0, 556 kilometers. Also out here in the Australia area, 4.2. It's been a while since we've seen some movement out here in this area. That earthquake striking at 10 kilometers below the surface. Middle East area over here, and the Greece region remains relatively quiet. We did see one 5.1 in the Turkey area at 53 kilometers, but other than that, this area here has remained relatively quiet over the last 3 to 4 days. Looking at Hawaii, still seeing some significant uptick around the southeast flank, including a 3.8. Yeah, 3.8 originally came in last night. It got downgraded and upgraded a little bit. Very shallow. Well, they upgraded the depth here. It was very shallow. Looks like it has been revised to 8.4 kilometers around the Mauna Loa area. 3.8 striking that region. Also, southeast flank looking pretty active over the last 24 hours as well. This one from yesterday, deeper earthquake way out there off the coast here of the Big Island, 36 kilometer deep, 2.7. Pretty big uptick in movement in the Nevada area overnight around the Tonopah area. Of course, a lot of folks remember the 6.5 that happened back here in 2020. This is all aftershock sequences from that earthquake. We've been watching that all year, or all last year. It's seen just a whole sequence of earthquakes in the line, if you will. Let's see if we can point out that line. Yeah, you can kind of see it here on the last 30 days. It's pretty much like that all year. Last year, a little quiet spell in the month of December in this region, but man, things are really kicking up here overnight and yesterday. Specifically confined to this area, not in a linear fashion anymore, but clustered, if you will, on the east side of Highway 3. Looking at 42 earthquakes within this region overnight, including a four-pointer, right? A 4.8 earthquake striking earlier this morning in the Mina, Nevada area. Of course, Tonopah sits down here a few miles to the southeast. This 4.8 at 9.9 kilometers below surface. Quite a bit of movement prior to, of course, and afterwards. As always, there's always a potential for an aftershock sequence to kick up years later in the larger magnitude, and that's kind of what we're seeing here in this area of Nevada. Since the 4.8 struck this morning, seeing quite a few 2s and 1s kick off in the aftershock sequence, which could continue, obviously, for years to come in this area of Nevada. A little bit of movement up here in the Elko area of Nevada as well. All this indicated of pretty much a heightened amount of pressure here along the western part of the North American plate. You can kind of see that outline of activity. The Elko area, seen that 3.6 kick up as well. Looks like about 4.2 kilometers for that earthquake. No aftershock sequences in that region yet. Looking at the eastern crest of the Sierra Nevadas, around Reno southward, just some spotty activity kicking up around the Long Valley supervolcano as well, and also within the volcanic tablelands there, some microquakes kicking off there as well. Ridgecrest movement really ramping up here overnight. Not so much in the fracture area where the July 4th, July 5th sequence earthquakes happened there in 2019, but more so up here north around the Coso volcanic range up here, seeing some movement up here, and also in the Owens Valley area, seeing some microquakes around the 1872 rupture zone. All that activity occurring earlier this morning and overnight. Seeing a dying off of activity down south here in this part of California. Just kicked up an earthquake right now. As soon as I start about it dying off. 1.4 coming in right now at 3.8 kilometers into the looks like the Fallbrook area south of Temecula and the Murrieta area. Up north in Northern California, we did see some further movement in the Mendocino area. Mendocino Trimble Point Junction, a 3.0 kicking off here. Still believe there's a lot more earthquake activity than what they're reporting for this region. 18.4 kilometers for a 3.0. Pacific Northwest through Oregon looks pretty quiet. A little bit of movement around the Mount St. Helens area. Some microquakes kicking off there. All other areas of the volcanoes in the Pacific Northwest look pretty quiet. Yellowstone region southward, not a whole lot of activity. And things kind of kicking up out there in the Texas area. Guadalupe Peak, Pecos, Texas, line of activity kicking up, including a 3.3 earthquake earlier this morning. Oklahoma, Kansas border, a couple small microquakes within that region. Also some activity kicking up still here in the South Carolina region. This area has seen a little swarm of movement over the last, for a while now it seems like, over the last few weeks. Here's the last 7 days of activity, only showing 5, but we can bring it back down to the all magnitudes. And brings in a little bit more activity over the last 30 days of the earthquakes here around the northeast of Columbia, South Carolina. Seen a 3.3. I'm not 100% certain if this is a main shaker or if it's kind of like some foreshake into something much bigger. There was a couple articles put out here on the news media about this movement and a little uncertainty of what could be causing it. There is some fault systems that run out here all over South Carolina. Pulled up this map here of the Columbia area and the Camden area where this activity is kind of occurring at, in between these two areas on normal faulting. I don't see any thrust areas and whatnot. The thrust areas are going to be these lines with the pointy teeth on it. Looks similar to a cold front on a weather map, but some normal faulting systems out here. And it's hard to say exactly if this is foreshocks or just normal activity in the normal faulting of South Carolina. I did pull up a map of earthquake activity in the South Carolina region in history. I'm sure this is just a small amount of earthquake activity that has taken place. Pulled up 4.0 and above in the South Carolina region. Does not cover any other states outside of this zone. Of course, the Charleston area seen a 7.0 back in 1886. Pretty significant earthquake out there on the looks like the 1st of September there, 1886. Did quite a bit of damage there. Caused a few unfortunate fatalities as well. And looks like scientists have classified it as an intraplate earthquake. Had a magnitude of roughly 6.9 to 7.3 on the scale. Very little to no historical earthquake activity had occurred in this region, which is unusual for any seismic area. Of course, remember, seismographs and whatnot, back in that time and prior, right? We don't know 100% certain about the all the activity that has occurred in the South Carolina region. So to say that that a big one won't occur again is probably just a little not correct. It was felt as far as ways Illinois, Wisconsin region. Had a lot of sand boils throughout the region. That's kind of scary. Minor earthquake activity still continues in the region in the early 21st century, and maybe continuation of some aftershocks. Let's see, what do we got here? Yeah, there's definitely some fault systems that run through there. So earthquake activity can continue for many years, but this activity occurring in the Lugoff area is definitely a ways away from this region down south here, where we've seen that 6.9 to 7.3 magnitude quake there back in 1886. But definitely some normal faulting areas out there. I don't believe it's anything fracking or oil rig related, or oil wells, I should say. But something to keep an eye on for sure, right? Because we never know exactly when something big could happen out there. Sometimes we get these foreshocks, such as they did back in the 1886. They had a series of some smaller earthquakes prior to the 7.0 earthquake down there in South Carolina. So just good to be on guard. It is in a major seismically hazard area. Let's go ahead and pull up this hazard map. You can see this region specifically in a bad area when it comes to potential for large earthquakes. The region up here in the let's see here, where we're at, Columbia, Lugoff, Camden area. Let's back out of here a little bit, kind of like in the center, if you will. You can kind of see it's in the zone, not as much as a high zone up here to the southeast, but definitely in there in the green, it looks like. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that region. Just looking at the last day or so, seen a 2.6 and a 1.5, so things kind of just ramping up a little bit in the South Carolina region. Need to be on guard and be prepared, stay safe. And of course, 7.0 out there, if we were to have something larger in that region, I think it would do a lot more damage than, for example, out here in California, west of the Rockies. What else we got here? New Madrid zone looks pretty quiet for now. Not a whole lot of activity over the last week or so. Looks like only 2 earthquakes, 2 small microquakes within this region of the New Madrid zone. Areas up north, let's see, Ohio, of course, had that little earthquake northeast of Cleveland, 1.9. I wonder if that was today. Kind of looks like that was today. Maybe a small aftershock following that 2.8 yesterday in the Timberlake area. It looks roughly about the same here. So a little microshock following that, microquake aftershock following that earthquake there. Puerto Rico area, seen some movement around the Puerto Rico Trench. Nothing like we seen yesterday and the day before. Just a couple small microquakes kicking off out there in that region. South America, one little earthquake, 4.2 in the Bolivia, Chile area, 123.3 kilometers into the subduction zone of the Peru-Chile Trench. What else we got here? Looks like we had an earthquake just pop up here in the, looks like that's pretty recent. Within the last hour, 5.0 out in the end of the Aleutian Islands off the coast of Russia, 10 kilometers, pretty shallow earthquake. We have been seeing a swarm of movement here in this region. I'd like to call this area very close to our watch zone for the potential of a megaquake due to the accumulation of stress over time without the release of something significant here in this region. Just kind of right outside of here is kind of a watch zone that we've been watching pretty closely for some large release of pressure. That area, again, remains relatively quiet today and over the last 24 hours. What else we got here? I was looking at some articles on the induced earthquakes, right? We always talk about Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas. We can go back the last 30 days of activity and see, well, there you go. Quite a bit of movement throughout the beautiful state of Oklahoma and the beautiful state of Texas. Out there, well, west of Odessa, Midland area. There's a little line of movement here. There's some fault systems that do run out here, but there's also a lot of pumping operations and whatnot. A lot of people saying that they don't believe it's fracking operated, that it's more or less oil and whatnot, wastewater injection causing this earthquake activity there in Texas. That could be the case up here in Oklahoma as well. A little article put out by the USGS of earthquakes ramping up right around the booming, if you will, right, of of those wells and whatnot throughout the Oklahoma area. You notice on the map here, things really ramping up in this area of Texas as well. Look at Oklahoma. I mean, it's safe to say that the majority of these are no doubt pumping operation induced earthquakes. You can see it pretty clear as day through the Oklahoma and the Kansas area. Kansas up here, it's hard to say what's going on up here. I believe this is fault related, but we'll check that out at another time. But two big areas, Oklahoma and Texas, seeing that earthquake activity induced, if you will. Prior to that, you know, it's pretty obvious. Not a whole lot of earthquakes until the looks like the 2009, 2008 area. Just seen a massive amount of man-made earthquakes in that region, including that 5.8 in the Pawnee area of Oklahoma, 2016. That was a pretty good shakeup. Got to remember the plates out here are always almost continuously under a amount of stress and pressure, not only at the surface but deep down below the surface area. Of course, when you drill into them and alter the effects of the land out there, kind of get those earthquakes, right, under pressure. And that's kind of what we've seen throughout the past 20 years or so, on a significant uptick. What else we got here, folks? As far as fault systems out here in the western Texas area where we're seeing that earthquake activity, there's not a whole lot. Specifically right around this region here, but on the map, when you look at the satellite view, we can see that things kind of switch up out here. There's a lot that we can't see, and then there's a lot that we can when we zoom in to the land, and you see these little white dots on the map. They're kind of square. Most of them are all square, and they're all leading down dirt roads and out to pumping operations and injection wells, and that's exactly what is all around this region. And we know what's up in Oklahoma and Kansas area, some parts of Kansas, southern Kansas. A lot of these massive amount, I'm talking thousands of them. And no doubt earthquakes will continue for some time in this area of the country, and some of them could get large once again due to the massive amounts of them and ultimate pressure being applied on those those weak crustal areas, induced earthquakes on the land. Let's see what else we got here. Yellowstone map has been pretty quiet. We have not seen any significant movement there. No microquakes. Looks like something kind of popping up here around, at least within the last couple hours. I didn't see that earlier this morning. Let's see what we got. A little bit of microquakes here kicking up. You can see this defined movement on the well-defined spiky size, or signature, I should say, on the seismographs. A couple of them kicking up within the last couple hours at Yellowstone National Park, specifically right smack dab in the middle of the Yellowstone caldera, west of Yellowstone Lake. Looks like it's being picked up on the Old Faithful station, but mostly centered around the Grant Village, Little West Thumb area, showing up on local stations. You can see it. I know it's earthquake activity because of the shape of these earthquakes and the signature. Here it's showing up a little bit weaker on the distant stations, not as strong as these signatures on the Grant Village area. These are also picking up some other smaller quakes within these little larger quakes. Now, these are not big ones. In fact, I don't even know if the USGS is showing these on the map. Let's go ahead and what do we got there in Northern California? Another earthquake kicking up there, it looks like. Oh yeah, Yellowstone over here. Not really showing it on the map, are they? These other earthquakes are not of the timestamps that we're looking for, and they're not in the area that's missing that earthquake activity. This is all magnitudes, and it should show up there, but they're not from the USGS. So we'll wait to see if they pick up these earthquakes, which it looks like probably a good 7, 8, maybe 10 or so earthquakes within this little area of Yellowstone National Park. Probably all under 2.0 threshold due to the seismic readings here on the graph. Over here to California real quick. Kind of want to see what's coming in to the, the Cascadia subduction zone. Another subduction zone earthquake. I can tell because of the depth of this earthquake, 23.2 kilometers into the mega thrust area of the Cascadia, down dip zone. Not in the tremor department, but definitely down dip into the locked area, 2.5. Overnight, of course, we did see that 3.0. So that one was a little bit more shallower, but down south here, right around the Mendocino Triple Point area. But definitely keep an eye on this region of Northern California. Let's see if it showed up on the USGS map, or I mean on the seismograph stations. Yes, it did. There is that 2.5. You can see it on the Dinsmore station. The Petrolia station is currently not working. Sometimes it randomly drops the seismic data, so I do have that as a backup. Dinsmore, California station just outside of Eureka, picking up that 2.5 earthquake there around the Cascadia subduction zone. All right, folks. Let's see, what else was there that I needed to cover. Let's get back over here to the solar weather. I don't think there's anything really kicking up. In fact, last night in the update, things were very quiet, a little too quiet. Just 5% chance of a C flare. Things really calming down there on the sun with no sunspot activity really to report. Nothing new. These look like they're decaying. I don't see any further growth from either of those little sunspots which are dying out. All right, guys, have a good day. Stay safe out there, and we do have some decals. The decals arrived today for those of you watching this kind of lengthy video. If you guys want some free decals for your ride, your computer, or whatnot you want to put on, send me an email. I might have to order another stack because I have a lot of them taken up already. I got an overwhelming response of some decals. I'm going to send out 2 to everyone that requests them. And like I say, I'm going to have to order another stack. But the first round will be going out here soon. I am replying to all the emails that I get personally, letting you know that I received your address correctly. There's a couple emails that did not include your address, so I can't get any decals out to you unless you include your mailing address there, so I can ship them out to you. They're pretty cool, of the Earthmaster logo and YouTube, and they're weather resistant. I've had mine on my car in the 115-degree heat in the summer in the sun. They do not fade. They do not peel, and you know, like a lot of the decals do. They're pretty awesome, and they'll stay on your ride for quite a while without fading or peeling from the rain or cold or heat. So if you want some, remember, earthmastermail@gmail.com. Send your name, address, and I'll get them out to you. For those of you watching, once again, this kind of lengthy, long video, but kind of wanted to cover the activity in the South Carolina region. Quite a few folks wondering what's going on out there. Like I said, there's just a little uncertainty on what's going on, if this is leading to something specific. But there's earthquake activity and earthquake hazards out there, and some normal faulting zones in that region that do get accompanied by earthquakes over time, especially when you get some squeezing and some plate dynamics here along the East Coast, which is the has seen some earthquake activity in the past. So, all right, guys, I am off of here. Got kind of a busy day. Got birthday party to go to for one of the little ones, and we'll be watching the live stream and whatnot. Hope everyone has a good day. We will be back a little bit later this evening. Take care, everyone.